Welcome back to March Madness Analysis. Today we're going to break down the SEC Conference, and I'm going to start at the bottom at number 14. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's going to lose their two leading scorers from a 3-15 SEC record team last year, and that includes Saban Lee, their star. They could potentially have a better conference record than they did last year as they return Maxwell Evans and Scottie Pippen Jr. They're going to bring in a Notre Dame transfer in DJ Harvey. Jerry Stackhouse is entering his second season as the Commodore head coach, and this is going to be his second rebuilding year as a Commodore. However, I think they have a bright future ahead, and in my opinion, this is the best last-place team in all of the Power 6 conferences. And at number 13, I have Georgia. Georgia had a 5-13 SEC record last year, and they're going to lose Anthony Edwards to the NBA draft. That's a main loss for them, and they also lose their second leading scorer behind Edwards, Rayshawn Hammonds. However, they're bringing in three transfers, one from George Mason, Stony Brook, and Virginia Tech, and they're also bringing in a four-star recruit in K.D. Johnson. They're going to return two starters in Wheeler and Kamara from last season. And last year they had a pretty solid offense, but a horrific defense. And if they can improve their defense, I think they could be a solid team and possibly bump their way up in the SEC rankings. Tom Crean is entering his 21st season as a head coach, third season with Georgia. He has 9 tournament appearances, 1 Final Four, and he was named the 2015-2016 Big Ten Coach of the Year with Indiana. So we'll see how that coaching experience ties into this season for Georgia. At number 12, I have Mississippi State. Mississippi State is losing nearly their entire lineup from a season ago, both to the NBA and to the transfer portal. They were looking ahead to a solid season before the announcement of a couple losses in their team. They return a young team, but they might have some potential to lead this team to a couple wins this year. Obviously, this is going to be a down year, a rebuilding year for Ben Howland as he enters his 6th year at Mississippi State. And in his 5 previous years, only one of those last 5 seasons for Mississippi State did they have a losing record. So they should expect that this year, as they will have a down year. I have them at 12. At 11, I have Texas A&M. Texas A&M last year was 10-8. I could be underestimating this team. This could be a potential mediocre team in the SEC, but right now I have them in the bottom 4. They're losing their big man, Nebo, who is tough in the paint, a hard worker, and they are returning a lot of talented and hardworking players. They will be a tough team to defeat this year. They will have a solid defense. They could potentially rise a lot further than what I have them at, which is 11th. Obviously, they got Buzz Williams a couple years ago, and in previous years with Marquette and Virginia Tech, he made the tournament 8 out of his 11 head coaching years. This is his second season with Texas A&M, and I'm interested to see what he does with this young, talented team. And at number 10, I got Missouri. Missouri is returning all 5 of their top scorers from a season ago. They will have a few talented upperclassmen. Last year, they had a 7-11 SEC record, and they had 2 of their players injured for multiple games throughout the year. And I'm interested to see how they perform with everyone healthy. So if everyone stays healthy this year, I could see them rising potentially a little bit higher than 10th. Kwanzaa Martin is entering his 4th year at Missouri, and he should have a better season than the last couple of years. I could see this team potentially even rising to maybe number 7, but they're going to have to play well. At number 9, I've got Auburn. So obviously in 2018 and 2019, they had the Final Four run where they lost Okike, Brown, Harper, Spencer, and Dunbar. They had a shocking 2019-2020 season that no one was expecting, and that year they lost Dowdy, McCormick, Okoro, McLemore, Wiley, and Purifoy. They only have one returning player from their 2019 Final Four run, and I don't think they'll have a third surprising season after all of those losses. I think they're going to be a mediocre SEC team. They're returning a few second-year players, and they're also bringing in a 5-star point guard in Sheriff Cooper. But you cannot doubt Bruce Pearl team. He's made the tournament 11 out of his 16 years as a head coach. This will be his 7th year at Auburn, And obviously, we've seen him do crazy things. So I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn even bumps up into maybe even the top 6. At number 8, I've got Ole Miss. Ole Miss is losing one of their 2 main playmakers, and that loss is Brean Tyree. However, they're returning Devontae Shuler, who has the potential to be a star player, and he also has the potential to single-handedly dominate games. We'll see how he performs this year. They're bringing in an Arizona State transfer in Romello White. They are getting a 5-star guard in Matthew Murrell. Kermit Davis is entering his 3rd season with Ole Miss and only 3rd season in a Power 6 conference, and he has 6 career tournament appearances. So we'll see how Ole Miss does this year. And number 7, I have Arkansas. Arkansas is going to be a really solid team. However, they lost 3 of their main players from last year, and that includes Mason Jones, their best scorer, who was the co-SEC Player of the Year. They're losing Jalen Harris, a major offensive factor who had lots of assists for the Razorbacks, and they're also losing Isaiah Joe, who's a fantastic 3-point shooter. But on the other end, they are bringing in one of the top recruiting classes. They have 3 4-star guards and a 4-star center. They're also bringing in 4 recruits that should contribute. Desi Sills is returning for the Razorbacks, and they have hope that he can have a breakout season. Eric Musselman is optimistic for a successful future. If this isn't the year for Arkansas, I know the next couple of years should be pretty solid. This will be his 2nd year as the Arkansas head coach. So he is turning that program around, and I think they will be one of the top teams in the SEC this year. At number 6, I have South Carolina. South Carolina finished in the top 6 of the SEC in the last 2 years, and they returned most of their main players from last year, so I don't have any reason to believe they won't be in the top 6 this year. In addition, they're adding a North Carolina transfer, 7th Woods, and Frank Martin has had 8 seasons as South Carolina head coach. He hasn't had a losing season in 6 years, and obviously he had the Final Four run in 2017. And they always play well in conference, so I really don't have any reason to believe that South Carolina won't be in the top 6. I could even potentially see them being in the 4 spot. At number 5, I have Alabama. Alabama's losing Kyra Lewis Jr., who controlled the team last year. However, they're returning nearly everyone else. They're returning 2 of their top 3 shooters from a season ago. Alabama's offense was ranked 3rd last year in points per game. That's going to drop down just a slight bit. And that's going to drop because of the loss of Kyra Lewis Jr. The defense needs to improve, and they need to be better than they were last year. And if they do that, I think they have potential. But if they don't replace what they lost, they could be a middle to bottom team. Right now, I think they have all the pieces, and I have them at 5. In our top 4, I think these are elite programs in the top 4. And I'm going to start with Florida, who's going to be an elite team this year. They obviously lost Kerry Blackshear Jr., who really didn't perform to the level that I thought he could last year. And they also lost Andrew Nebhard, who transferred to Gonzaga. That shocked the Florida Gators fans. Mann and Glover should increase their production from last year. Scotty Lewis returns, and who has NBA potential. Keontae Johnson and Noah Locke will be major offensive contributors. They have a great combination of talent, experience, and leadership. Mike White is entering his 6th season at Florida. He has had great success with the Gators. They had a disappointing season last year, so the question for them is how will they bounce back from a disappointing season? They have all the pieces to be in the top 4. However, I don't see them getting into the top 2. I could see them being at 3 maybe. Right now I have them at 4. And at my number 3 spot, I've got LSU. LSU is losing their major scorer in Skylar Mays. They're losing a hardworking forward in Emmett Williams, who's going to the NBA. They're returning 2 solid players, Watford and Smart, that are going to get the chance to lead the team. And they are bringing in a transfer, Sharif O'Neal from UCLA. They could potentially fight for a top spot in the SEC, but I have them ranging from 3 to 5. I don't see them breaking the top 2. And in the top 2, these are the best of the best. These two teams are really going to compete for the top spot and have the greatest chances of getting number one. At number 2, I had to put Tennessee. Tennessee, last year, they could have potentially finished 5th in the SEC, and they were dealing with the losses of Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Kyle Alexander, Jordan Bone, and they also had an injured player in Lamonte Turner. John Fulkerson and Yves Pons have really stepped up and played huge roles in Tennessee's success last year. Both players decided to stay and play with the Bulls again this year. They're also returning starters Jordan James and Vescovi. They're bringing in 5 stars Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson, and they're also bringing in 4 stars Corey Walker Jr., and they're also getting 2 transfers in Victor Bailey Jr. and EJ Ennisike. So they were going to have a lot of depth this year. Not only will they be an elite team this year, but they should have a bright future in the upcoming years. Rick Barnes is obviously a great coach. He's made the tournament 24 out of his 32 years as a head coach. He's entering his 6th season as the Tennessee head coach. He has 1 Final Four appearance, and the only thing missing in his resume is a national title, and this could be the team that does it. I think Tennessee has all the pieces for a very, very, very successful season. However, at number 1, I had a hard time not putting Kentucky at number 1. They're going to be the standard Kentucky team. They lost all their players from last year and bringing in a lot of fabulous freshmen. They lost Ashton Higgins, Emmanuel Quickley, Tyrese Maxey, Nate Sestina, Khalil Whitney, Johnny Juzang, Nick Richards, and EJ Montgomery. However, they're bringing in the number 1 recruiting class, and that includes 5 stars BJ Boston, who's already an SEC Player of the Year candidate, another 5-star Terrence Clark, and they're bringing in 4 stars Isaiah Jackson, Devin Askew, Lance Ware, Cameron Fletcher. They have 6 of the top 70 recruits this year. They're bringing in 3 transfers in addition to that. John Calipari always develops great freshmen, and he will have another team ready to compete. I have a hard time going against another John Calipari freshman-led team. Tennessee and Kentucky, though, will have a great battle for the top spot. I'm excited to watch that game. I'm excited to watch how this competitive SEC conference plays out. That's all that I have for now. Comment what you think down below in the comments, and I'll see you next week.